I'm Tim from Dogmatek, and I'm here with Ryan to show you Dogmatek's first pedal, the Arctic Wolf twin modulator. The Arctic Wolf is a full stereo analog phaser with digital control. So that means you get all that warm, lush analog tone for your signal, but then you get the added digital features like tap tempo and save and recall of your settings. It's full stereo, so that means you get 2 inputs and 2 outputs, and these are user configurable for various setups. So let's take a look at the unit. We've got 6 variable knobs here for various settings. You've got the 6 orange push switches which toggle through different features. You've got the massive green indicator LED to indicate how fast the phase is going, and then there's 2 soft touch foot switches to engage, bypass the unit, and then tap and recall. So one of the first things we'll do is set up the gain in the unit. Now the Arctic Wolf has 18 dB of gain, so that means if you've got a nice tube amp, you can really drive that input and get that lush distortion you get from tube amps. Or if you've got a solid state amp, then you can dial it back a bit and use all that internal headroom for dynamics. So one of the first things we're going to do is set the gain to the unit, and we're just going to set it to unity. So unity gain will normally be at about 11 o'clock, but it'll depend a little bit on your guitar. So we're going to be using this unit in mono stereo configuration, and that means that Ryan's guitar, a 1964 Burns, goes into either input 1 or input 2. We're going into input 1 today, and then the 2 separate outputs go to 2 different amps. So on your left we've got a 1972 Fender Twin Reverb, and on the right we've got a little New Zealand made Rocket solid state amp. The way we're recording this, we're going to pan to your left so we can hear the Fender Twin in both clean and engaged, and then we'll pan to the right so you can hear the solid state Rocket in the same way. So let's hear the Fender Twin first in clean. And then with the phaser engaged. And now we'll try the Rocket clean. And engaged. So let's look at some of the features. First up, we've got the shape switch, and this adjusts through the 5 waveforms that you can choose on the Arctic Wolf. The first one is the triangle wave. So that's a pretty classic phasing as the phasing ramps up and ramps down again. Push the shape switch and we get through to square wave. So the square wave jumps between the top and bottom of the phase sweep, and you get an almost tremolo type effect. Next up we have a sine wave. So you can hear that's quite similar to the triangle wave, it's just a bit more rushed at the top and bottom of the waveform. Another press of the switch and we get to random. So you can hear there that the phasing's jumping around between the top and bottom of its sweep, and you get an almost robotic sound. The last press of the switch gets us to the manual sweep mode, and this is where the rate knob becomes a sweep of the phase shift filters. Now's a good time to point out the expression input on the back of the pedal. So if you plugged in an expression pedal here, you could then use the phaser like a wah pedal as you manually sweep through the phase. On any of the other waveforms, the expression pedal will adjust the rate of the phaser. So if we go back to triangle wave, I'll show you the symmetry knob next. Now this adjusts how fast the phaser rises or falls depending on which way we turn it. So if I go counterclockwise, we start to get a faster rise and a slower fall. And if we go clockwise, we get the opposite, a faster fall and slower rise. Next up we have the stages. Now if you're familiar with phasers, you know that the more phase shift stages you have, the more deep and intense the sound is. In mono mode, the Arctic Wolf can switch between 4, 6 or 12 stages, 12 being a very deep phasing sound. In any of the stereo configurations, the Arctic Wolf can switch between 4 and 6. So I'll just switch it over to mono and we can hear the 3 different settings. And then if we switch back to stereo, you'll see that the stages switch will only toggle between 4 and 6. So this is a good time to point out the feedback knob. This adjusts how much of your final phase signal is fed back into the phaser to get an even deeper sound. So if Ryan plays, I'll just turn it up. Now, I've already adjusted the rate a few times and you'll notice that there's no little switch to toggle between fast and slow rates. That's because the Arctic Wolf has the largest rate range available. And so at its minimum, the phaser will sweep once every 30 seconds. So that's a nice lush, slow phasing. And then at its maximum, the phasing is at 100 Hertz. So that's 100 times a second where you get kind of an almost ring modulation-esque sound. The next 2 knobs, upper and lower, are a little bit unique to the Arctic Wolf, and these adjust how long the waveform stays at its upper and lower apex. So you'll see there that you can adjust independently how long it stays at the bottom and how long it stays at the top. And this allows you to create some quite cool rhythms as you speed up the waveform. Because the Arctic Wolf is digitally controlled, we get tap tempo. We've also added tap multiplier, so you can speed up your tapped speed. This is great if you can't quite tap fast enough, or you want the phaser to be phasing at sort of double the tempo of your song. The tap multiply switch only becomes engaged once you've tapped in at least 2 taps. The last 2 switches on the Arctic Wolf are the save and recall. This allows you to save up to 8 user settings to recall later. It's nice and easy. All you have to do is press save. You press save once and your settings are saved in position 1, press save twice and they're saved in position 2. We're going to save the current settings in position 4. So you'll see the LED flashes to indicate that the settings have been saved and then goes out. Now for recalling your settings, you've actually got 2 options. You can use the recall switch just as you would the save switch, pressing once to recall position 1, or you can use the tap recall switch over here. To use the tap recall switch, we simply hold it down for 2 seconds and the recall switch becomes lit. This now indicates that this foot switch is your recall foot switch. So if I now switch through, I can recall setting 4. You'll see that the LED stays on to indicate that you are now in settings 4. If you want to go back to the settings that the knobs are currently sitting at, simply turn the rate to 0 and the LED will go out. So that's a brief overview of the Arctic Wolf. Have a look at our other videos to see some more in-depth use of some of these functions. I'm Tim, this is Ryan, and this is the Arctic Wolf.